Okay, so an introduction to PowerShell again, because my last capture failed and crashed. PowerShell relies on .NET, so PowerShell and .NET, they go hand in hand, and with Windows 8, with Server 2012 and above, and all the new Windows Microsoft products coming through, I'm pretty sure they all have PowerShell 3.0 built in. Windows 7, Server 2008, they all have PowerShell 2.0, but you can download an additional package, WinRM package that is for PowerShell 3.0. Which PowerShell 3.0 has a dependency on .NET, latest one being 4.0. So that's a dependency on installing the latest one on previous operating systems. I don't know if it works on XP or not, but everything above definitely. We can check what version we're running. There's a variable called host. If I press enter on that, it returns the properties and their values. Cool. So we can see that version 3.0, that's the one I'm running. I'm running this on Windows 8. I use PowerShell heavily for work. It's awesome for scripting, and you can get a lot of, you can download a lot of added commandlets and stuff. If you're working with Active Directory, I'd recommend Quest PowerShell commandlets. They're awesome. There's a lot of similarities from the command prompt days. Things you can do in here, pretty much the same things you could do in the command prompt. So ipconfig, which is actually essentially just the executable. Center on that. Dir. You can run that stuff. So I tend not to really use command prompt at all now. I just use PowerShell for everything. To get started, type in get alias, and you'll see here that there's such things as aliases, and that they actually are references, or aliases, obviously. They point to commandlets. So everything in PowerShell it's essentially all about commandlets. That's what everything's based off commandlets and functions and stuff like that. So we typed in ipconfig. Ipconfig isn't actually an alias because it's an executable, but we typed in dir, D-I-R, dir, and that's an alias. Now PowerShell now has a commandlet, get child item, which carries out the same functions that dir did. So when you're typing in dir, you're actually typing in get child item. So if I go back up, you can have multiple aliases for each commandlet, and what they've done, these are defaults. They've got, where's L comes up? Yeah, I, doesn't it? ls, that's for those non-Windows folk, that's an alias for get child item as well. So there's two, but wait, there's more. GCI is another alias for get child item. It's just an abbreviation. Get child item. And there's other things in here that you'll be familiar with if you've come from the command prompt days. CLS is actually calling on clear host. So if I type that in, clear host. Whoa. Yep. That's the same thing as CLS. So start with get alias, because you'll just get used to, you'll see a lot of things that you should become familiar with. Get member is another one. Another command that I recommend you get familiar with, as well as get format list. Format list, probably the first one you'll start using, or format table, format wide. Tend to use format list for just outputting to the screen, all properties available to something you're working on, or most properties. So as an example, dir, which is the same as get child item, dir pipe So to use format list, or to change this default output that we see here, that commandlet has a default output. Every commandlet pretty much has a default output, and that output is based off, I think, about 4 properties or so. This is one property, mode, another property, last write time, another property, length, and name. By using format list has its own output properties, default output properties. So what this has done is list, so for the first object, test folder, it's got 4 properties. For the next folder, another 4, and for the text document, it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But even format list has its own default output. So if you actually want to get everything, you actually need to put in a star there, and the star will mean it's like a wildcard, get everything. And you'll see here that there's a heck lot more. Okay, a lot more properties for each object. A lot of them won't even really matter though, that's why format list is good, just for a quick way to see maybe some key values that you're looking for. Star though is the best thing to use if you're scouring through properties of something. And there's another command, get date. There's lots of commands actually, but this is one we can play with. Format list. Format list. If I put sorry, let me explain that. Get date. This is the default output. The one that probably makes most sense. So that's what they decided to do for the default output of get date, is put the day, day, month, year, and time. Format list outputs everything of this command. And I say everything because if I put format list in, like on the last time we put format list star, it returned a lot more, but on this one it returns the same. That's only because there's not that many properties anyway, so they've stuck in all the properties for format list. Okay, so get alias was the first one we talked about. I've just talked about the pipeline, and that's using that little thing there, and format list. Using format list, that's probably one of the first things you could use. There's another one I mentioned before, get command. Another one I want to talk about, get member. That's right. Get member returns all members available to that object. So a member type here, these are all properties. These are the ones that we really care about at the moment. And there's a script property. And note property. And methods. So a lot of these things like methods, they'll be useful for when you want to modify the object in some way. So you might want to say, I want to get a file, or I want to get all files that are older than 30 days. And so what you might do is you might, using the method, you might pipe something through, then you would use the method on an object to, there's no minus hours, so you'd go add, or minus days, there's add days, you'd put add days -30, and that would modify the object, do -30 days, and you'd put a conditional statement on that. Now I don't want to get into too much detail, but anyway, suffice to say, get member will show you everything that you can view and do with everything you can view for an object and everything you can do to an object. So some of these methods are built in with this commandlet. Okay, things like add days, add hours. That obviously these things aren't going to be available to some other commands like IP. You get your IP configuration. But some of the methods are available as a part of PowerShell. They're built in, and they're available to pretty much every command. Something, for example, like toString. I want to make sure that what I'm working with is a string before I pipe it through and work with that property somewhere else. So I could use toString as a method on pretty much anything. So get member don't worry about it too much when you're starting out. Worry about format list, FL star. When you're using format list, use the star, and that way you'll ensure that you're getting everything. So we talk about get alias, we talk about get, we talk about the pipeline. Get help, it's really good. Hey look, ipconfig, so getting help on ipconfig actually shows the command that Windows PowerShell has available, which is get net IP configuration. So here's the default output for that command, which is a bunch of properties. Remembering we can use format list, FL, the alias for format list, star. Whoa, heaps of properties here. So you've got the adapter. If I went select, select is just an abbreviation for select object. If I went select object net adapter, whoa, look, it's got two properties. So maybe it's because I got two adapters. Maybe. So format list defined heaps of stuff, and you can use select to only look to try and get one value that you're after in particular. So let's go interface index. Whoa, I think it's all the way over the right there. Do something else here. Let's go select first one. Whoa, check it out, I just selected the first one. It's another cool thing you can do. So we're talking about get help. Get help ipconfig. Get help is awesome. When you're using get help, I suggest typing in full if you want to get everything. Okay. Otherwise, use the internet. I mean, there's so much stuff on PowerShell on the internet at the moment. It's just crazy. So get alias, get help for everything that you're stuck on. I can put in get help for an alias, which actually brings up the help for get child item. If I put the switch for full, I could put in examples. Sorry, start with full. Full, yeah, returns heaps of stuff. It returns all the switches available, and returns the, is the switch required? False. You don't actually need to put the switch in, because otherwise it would, I would have failed on that previous attempt, etc. Get help is very awesome. Get alias is great, just to become familiar with the, some of the built-in aliases. You'll find that if I type in get help alias, I could type get help get alias, but if I type get help, so typing in get help get alias returns the help file, if you like, for get alias. But if I put in get help alias, look what it does here. It knows that there are more than one commandlets that have alias in them, and returns everything. So what you'll see here is that you can actually not just get an alias, but you can create new aliases. You can import alias. If you are wanting to do that, I would suggest you look up on the internet on how to do that, or just type in get help for one of those commandlets. So I want to create a new alias. So what can I do here? Have you got some examples? No, you don't have examples, so I'm going to go to the internet. But you can type in full just to see, okay, what switches does it have available? Description, oh cool, I can put a description in for my alias. I can force it to create. I guess that force will probably mean that if your the alias already exists, you're overwriting it if you put that switch in. You put in a name, obviously, etc., etc., etc. So use the help, use the internet. If the help's not good enough, get alias, get command. Depending on the operating system you're running, the version of PowerShell that you're running, if you're running Exchange, you're all going to have different sets of commands available to you. So here, this output shows all the commands available to me, and they're of type alias, type function, and there's the command that's familiar, that we're already familiar with, like get child item, which I was going to show you, but I'm lost. Anyway, it's a big list. Get command if you want to view everything. Get help command. I could type in get command, but let's see what else is available. So I can see that I think my battery's dying in my headset. You can see that there's not just get command, but there's show command, and measure command, and invoke command. I use measure command sometimes if you're running a big job or a command that's going to trawl a directory, get child item that's millions of files. Then you could measure the command, the time that it takes for that command, by going get child item measure command. Oh, whoa, dude. Length. Oh. Let's try. I don't know the expression. That example. Anyway. Get help. Command. Return stuff. There you go. So get help. Use it for everything. Get alias. Become familiar with just the aliases that are there. Get command if you just want to browse the commands that are available. And what else would I explain? Just to start with, get variable. It's awesome. You want to see what variables you've got? Type in get variable. One that I would, I think, host, just to show get variable name host. Look at that. Return me that. Doesn't show me much, does it? If I put in format list star, shows me all the stuff. That's showing me the variable. It's not showing me the properties of that variable. How would I get that? Well, let's just open up the variable. Put a $sign. Put the variable name. Whoa. Default output. Cool. Here's the properties. Here's their values. Some of the stuff you don't need to know. But there we've got the version and host. We've got other cool things. Look, maximum alias count, 4096. Don't know why I'd use that. Another really good one, if you're creating lots of errors, use the error variable. I'll just clear the screen. Error variable. Whoa, heaps. So error variable, that's an array, so it contains every single error that you have back to a certain amount that it starts cycling through after X number of errors. But error, you can work with error in different ways. You can go by using brackets. I can say get me the first one. Oh, by the way, in PowerShell, the first object, or when you're referencing something, 0, and a number in an array, 0 is the first object. So look here, error, get me the first one of that array. It's returning jargon, but it's returning the error, essentially the last error that came up. If I put format list star, it doesn't really help, does it? There's also another one, format table, another one that's helpful for outputting, but no, not cool. If I did this, get member, remember this one was to show what all properties, list all properties and methods, ways to view properties of an object, so I could do this. Select object, which is the commandlet, or select is the alias. Select the property, or instead of putting that in, it should be smart enough to know that if I just put in target object, it knows. It just knows, man. Same as if I specify property target object. I'm just being real particular. Sometimes you'll need to specify, what you're working with before you put in the name. Other times it just knows that the output is a property type and just returns it. It just finds it. So anyway, you can work with objects that way. Pipe select a property. What kind of property? I don't know. Get member. I could do format list, but that doesn't help. Get member is alias. GM is alias for get member. Okay, now I know how to work with it because I've gotten the members. I can see all the members there, and now I can go select, and I can put in exception. Whoa! Check this out. Oh wait. Get member of exception? What? Oh my god, there's even more sub-properties. So you could go select exception. Oh my god. Select exception. This is useless. Anyway, there's another way of, instead of working with the pipeline, if you're working with an object or a variable, you can actually call on a sub-property by putting a full stop in the end. Oh, and then I just tabbed and it came up with the first property, which is category info. So when you're working with a commandlet, get date, you can't put a full stop in and tab through and expect to get a property. You actually have to pipe through for commands and whatnot. But an object, like the variable host a variable is an object. How do you know? Well, if I go like this, get type, this variable is base type. Anyway, so just remember, format list works pretty much on everything. If I went host format list, it works on that. It works on the object. And if I put a commandlet in, it works on that. Use format list, but use format list star, because remember, some things format list won't return everything. That's pretty much it. So we talked about get alias, we talked about get help, we talked about get commands, get variable to see what current variables there are that you can use, call on, check on. Are all great places to start. And before you get stuck into using the pipeline and using anything else, I'd recommend just becoming familiar with these few things. And I'll talk about the pipeline and give some demos in the next video.